We've got a chunk of time, 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so, before we wrap things up at the end of this first session. So what questions or thoughts or observations have you had listening to Lat and Sue, or general tangent questions that you've got as a result of this morning? We like tangents. Olivia's going to run up and down the aisle to capture your questions on the microphone, and I'm going to pass this one around. So who'd like to go first? So lunch then.
Hi. It's not really on what you've already talked about. Hopefully it's about the title of the day. I'm working primarily in a non-faith school, i.e. a county school, LEA school. And when I say the word in there, spirituality and things like that, they automatically go, oh, that's because you're a minister. Have you got any ideas or resources or suggestions, or this is what we've done before, ideas, gifts that I could take that would help break down some of that preconceived idea that spirituality automatically means religion in an organised form, especially when I go in as a minister, but not to do Bible bashing, please.
So I go to this primary school, and this head teacher says to me, "You're the RE man. I didn't really want you here. So what do you mean by spiritual?" So I say to him, "What's the moment this year when you felt most alive?" And he says, well, I jumped out of an aeroplane, did parachute jump for charity. I suppose that was when I felt most alive. Now, I nicked that from somebody else, but I think it's quite an interesting question that opens up the spiritual. I think you have to try and decide if the word really matters to you. I like it very much. I think it's a very useful word. Spirituality is a broader category than religion. I need a few minutes with a group of school staff to get them to see that when I say spirituality, I don't mean religion. And I need to get them to see that spiritual life is often what is on your iPod or where you go at the weekend, much more than it's to do with churches and religions. But if I'm given a bit of time to do that, then many people will say of themselves, I'm spiritual even though I'm not religious, and find a way of using the word that works. I have some atheist and humanist friends who say, don't pin that label on me, I'm not spiritual, and I don't wish to be described like that. And I respect that, actually, and think, well, I don't think spirituality is a universal category. So I think the word's no harder to use than music, actually. If you ask 3 musicians what is music, you get about 7 answers, don't you? So spirituality, it's quite similar to music in some ways. I like the word. I keep trying to use it. I think you're right that a certain amount of ground clearance and rebuilding needs to be done if a community's going to use the word intelligibly. But I don't think that's impossible. What makes you feel most alive? What music would you have, not to dance to, but to express your deepest self? Those kind of questions kind of get there.
Hello. With a community school, if I was the head of a community school trying to do what I'm doing, I would go in it very much at the SMSC route, and spirituality is in there. Spiritual awareness is in there. It might not be particularly well described, but it's a good hook in, and quite often people don't quite know how to do it and deal with it. You can, of course, have prayer spaces, however you want to call them, that are not overtly religious, because all children ask the big questions and want to talk about the big things. And I think if you looked at that 4-dimensional framework that you were talking about, Lat, actually you can translate that into a non-faith context quite easily. So I think that's quite a good hook in. That's the one I'd use.
Yeah, just to say, in Colchester, all the prayer spaces that we've run are in non-faith schools, because that's all we've got. We're working in secondary schools. But I would say that some of the activities, if you focus on, so the reality of what do we put in this space? What do we do? Some of those things that we do tap into things that are universal to human experience, like forgiveness, which we interpret in terms of letting go of hurts that other people have done to you. That's something we all have to face. Saying sorry That's something that if we're a fully formed human being, we ought to be able to do. Big questions about life, the universe and everything. It doesn't matter whether you've got a religion or not. We all have big questions about the way the world is, the way the world works, the way we wish the world were. Impression. What kind of impression have people made on you? What kind of impression, in turn, do you want to make on others? These are pretty much universal experiences of what it is to be human. And when people begin to engage with those, for some, particularly young people, they begin to discover what it is to be spiritual. They are spiritual, but they're beginning to have a way of forming an understanding of that and to have a language to be able to explain it and a way of being able to kind of tangibly get in touch with it, but not in a way that's religious. So I think one of the things we can do is to kind of press through the veil of always is spiritual and say, well, no, actually, this is what we would do. We would give young people a chance to do this and to think about this and to evaluate their responses to injustice in the world, and then we'll see what responses they make from it, because actually their response is what counts, not what we might expect from our own personal experience.
Another question? Comment, observation, stone you'd like to throw? Must be some more. Here we go. In the middle, Olivia.
Can I just start by thanking you? It's been really inspirational listening to what you've both said. I'm working in a church school, and I'm under, I won't call it pressure, but kind of concern is that I am not able to prove that I am creating Christians through my work. Part of that, the reason for that is I'm not particularly concerned with putting badges on kids as Christians. And I just wondered if that's anything that you've come across and how you would perhaps deal with that with a governing body that wants to know, have we increased the number of Christian disciples in our school? My answer to that is, don't know really. Not really bothered. It's not something I'm worried about. I just wondered if that's something you've come across or how you would respond to that.
It's your governing body?
It's our governor. Our governor, whole governing body.
Oh, right. Wow. And one of the things that we do, I work for a Christian trust, so who here works for like a Christian organisation that works in a town? And there's a few of us around, so you'll get where we're going with this. But and we are accountable to body of trustees, but in a larger sense to the churches of the town. But what we try to do is we talk in terms of transformation. I think the good news, if the good news works, it creates transformation in people's lives. And so we try to point to the transformation that happens in young people's lives. And through almost back to the spiritual, what is spiritual question, when we talk about the therapeutic change, if you like, to be very kind of sound posh sounding about it, but the therapeutic change that happens in young people when they do these things, when they engage with the prayer space, when they get involved in some of the other projects we're doing, we see just amazing and, for us, incredibly moving change in the life of a young person. So the story that I sent out to our supporters by email this weekend was about something that happened last week to do with a girl who, one of our team, who's a chaplain in a school, she talked her through the process of forgiving someone that had been a friend, but they had seriously fallen out. And so our team member talked her through this process of forgiving her friend, at the end of which she said, yes, I forgive her. I think that's a story of transformation. To forgive is a spiritual discipline. So that may not completely satisfy their desire that the pews will be filled, and we all long, many of us long for that. But it's a story of transformation that says, but do you know what? This is the good news at work. And what might happen next for that? We're part of the process. What might happen next for that young person, or what their next encounter might be, we'll trust that to God and to providence.
I don't mind.
I'll just say this about it. I think evangelism, at least in the commonest uses of the word, is an illegitimate activity in a publicly funded school. Evangelism is something that people may choose to engage with, children as well, but actually it's not okay to do evangelism in the curriculum. Okay, I'm pretty clear about that. I believe that because I'm a Christian and because I believe God gives every human freedom. But also, evangelism is a very legitimate activity for the Christian community to pursue. And actually, it is important if you have a care for the next generation of the Christian community in the UK to spot the entry points and see how and why do children, young people, and other people, older people, step inside the Christian community and take on Christian identity for themselves. That's not what you're doing when you do prayer spaces in schools. It's not what you're doing when you run curriculum lessons or school assembly. There's 1,000 other things to say about that, but I think if your governor doesn't quite get that yet, then he needs to come to an RE lesson.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I haven't come across that, fortunately, with my governing body. I don't know what the definition of being a Christian is in terms of what your governor thinks or believes, but I certainly know that from the sort of ground roots up, we had 7 children confirmed for the first time in our school this year. And that's because they wanted to be, not because anybody was trying to recruit them. But just from laying the seeds and the foundations of what we've been doing, it's been a natural step on. And perhaps that might go somewhere towards answering your governor's question. I don't know. Perhaps not.
Thank you. Anybody else got a question? Think of a really difficult one. Come on. Let's put this lot on the spot. Make the most of it. Is that a hand creeping up there or chewing the nails? Okay. Yeah.
I've just got a question. I've just started working in a secondary school as a school chaplain, and I'm finding it quite easy to engage with the students. You know, they're great. But I find it quite hard to engage with the staff, partly because it's a very busy place and everybody's busy doing their thing, and my contact time with staff is difficult to have. But I just wondered if you had any advice or experience of, you know, that how to kind of do. I don't want to make more work for them. I totally agree with this thing that it has to, the faith life, it is Joint Roman Catholic Church of England secondary school, so I agree that it has to be, like, the faith life has to be part of the school, not a bolt-on. And I don't want to just be giving tasks to get people involved. So just your thoughts on that, really.
I know we've got a few chaplains here. Is there any chaplains in the room who could say, yeah, I've got some ideas? Over there.
Well, I've only got 6 months of experience, so it's not very much really. But what I've been doing in terms of relating to staff is kind of targeting people in a friendly kind of way. So I've worked quite closely with the RE department because that seemed an obvious place to start. And I have a really good relationship with the head of RE, getting involved in some of the RE lessons. They come up to the chapel for things, and that's been a really good way of getting to know a whole team. The lady that teaches home economics came to me and said, I want to do something about harvest. How can we do it together? So that was great because she took the initiative. And so I'm just kind of being quite methodical, recognising that there's loads of staff that I don't come into contact with regularly, and accepting that it's a long-term kind of, you know, project really, and you can't kind of get everybody all at once. So it's just working at relationships for me. That's what I've been doing really.
Other chaplains who can chip in on this.
I had previous experience in university with young people, and it's difficult to engage the staff. And
You need to hold the microphone up to your mouth because it's got a noise gate on it.
Let's try this one.
one of the things I worked out was that you just have to sort of chill out about it, not worry too much. If you can't engage staff, there will be a moment, something will happen in the life of the institution. My effect. something will happen in the life of the organisation when there is a moment in which you will minister to either the whole organisation or a member of staff, and the whole sort of feeling of not being able to engage with individuals will turn around because they will see you. And so just to... I've done it again. Not to worry too much about not being able to engage lots of individuals and get them on board too quickly, because it will happen.
Yeah, just to kind of add on to that, I've been a chaplain at a CAV secondary school in Scunthorpe for the last year. And yeah, I completely sympathise where you're coming from. Initially, when I turned up in the academy, we had some staff who were of one faith or another, Christian, Muslim, Judaism, whatever, going, yay, there's a chaplain in the room. And then we had the majority of staff going, what is his ulterior motive? What is he doing here? I found one of the best ways for me personally was just getting involved in the school life as much as possible, regardless of whether it was chaplaincy or not. So I purposely go and join the singers. I'll purposely go and help coach rugby. I'll purposely go and do anything which they think I shouldn't do, because actually it helps build relationships. And I'll purposely go and sit in staff rooms, because it's weird how our school's designed. We've actually got about 10 staff rooms for all different departments. Weird. So I'll purposely go and sit down, have, tea, coffee, cake, whatever it might be, and actually purposely set part of my timetable aside to be with staff as much as students. And yeah, it's really interesting. I found perceptions of it as well, in the sense of before, if they accidentally let profanities fly in the staff room, they'd sort of be, the chaplain's in the room. But eventually they become more comfortable and they'll say, actually, yeah, we know you're human and you know that we're human. It's all right. Yeah, awesome. I hope that kind of helps.
Thank you. Just to lead on from that point, I definitely agree with everything that everybody else has said, but sometimes I think when we talk about schools, we really ignore the staff and their needs. And certainly for me, as a school chaplain, one of the most important things that I've done is actually get alongside staff and not say, I'm going to build a relationship with you because you can help me. Just, I want to build a relationship with you because I can help you, I can support you. Staff have so many pressures on them, both support staff and teaching staff. And one of the things that I've done is just set up a regular coffee club where staff can come along, have a conversation with someone that they've not seen for 2 weeks because the school is so busy. But it's quite a big statement to them about what you're there to do. It says, actually, I really care about you as a person, because then they're a lot more likely to say, oh, when you're doing this prayer space, what is it? I'd like to support you with it. It's a very, very small thing, but our last coffee club, we had 40 staff there, which is quite a big thing when they feel like they shouldn't be there because they've got lots of work to do. But those 10-minute conversations were really, really important. So just start really, really small and kind of build upon that and show the staff that they're valued and that they're important, because I don't think they always get that. So they may have they may be carrying baggage, they may think, oh, a chaplain, a religious person, we don't know what's gone on in their history, we don't know what their sort of faith community that they've been a part of has said to them, or what they've experienced as a child. They may be carrying all sorts of ideas with what a chaplain is, but if you get alongside them and build a relationship, it says a lot to them about who they are and that they're valued. I hope that helps.
I've got just a soft little idea here, which worked in a school that I worked in. We wanted many, many staff to take a bit of part in spiritual life of the school. So we did this little survey, which just went round, asked every member of staff. We sent kids to do it, actually. What's your claim to fame? And we got loads of claims to fame, like I once had a trial for Doncaster Rovers, which is quite a sad claim in some ways. I have flown over the North Pole. I met the Prime Minister. Load of stuff like that from teachers. And we would give out 6 of these at a time in assembly and challenge the kids to guess which member of staff it was who once had a trial for Doncaster Rovers. And then the following week in the assembly, you would hear from those members of staff about their claim to fame. I don't suppose these passed Ofsted criteria for being a well-balanced act of a mainly or broadly Christian character in terms of worship. But actually, to have drawn staff who thought that assembly was really contemptible activity into it in some way, actually did us a lot of good. So I don't know what foxy little question you've got that's better than what's your claim to fame, but find one, and really people were quite happy to be drawn in a soft little way to that. And of course it told you a lot about people as you went along. That one worked for us.
Got one more question. Anyone? Oh, now we've got two. It's like buses, isn't it?
Thank you. It was just a question or something that Lat said. You'll need a theology of plurality to connect with people of none. And could you expand on that a bit?
Yeah, at great length, but here just very briefly. That well, here's the fact. Religions are many, even if God is one. Okay? So, how you respond to that, if you wish to, there are some extreme positions which say all the other religions are the lies of the devil. There are some other positions which perhaps have a more listening focus to the religions other than Christianity, and acknowledge, for instance, that Jesus was Jewish from birth till death and beyond. So religions are many, God is one. What shall we make of that? My theology of religions is pretty plurally welcoming. I learned loads from the Hindus, I learned loads from the Buddhists, I learned loads from the Jews. And I find that many practitioners of religion in school need to think carefully and hard about what they make of the other religious communities that they encounter. Evangelical Christians sometimes say we come at this with regard to questions of truth, and the truth of Christ incarnate is the final revelation of God. And then evangelical Christians need to decide what kind of ethics they must practice in relation to people who don't agree with that claim. So that's a sort of interfaith ethics that says compassion and engagement and generosity and love of neighbour, that's important all the way through. But I think as well as that, you also need a theology of religions, an interfaith theology that says, put very simply, if God is one but religions are many, then what kind of world has God made? Let's work through that. It's been my privilege for 30-odd years to work in interfaith contexts in religious education. And for me, that's been enormously enriching. I've never been tempted, actually, to become a Hindu instead of a Christian, but I have learned loads from the Hindus. So I'm slightly unusual there, I think, among evangelical communities, certainly, but that's where I kind of stand on that. I don't think every Christian needs the same theology of religions as I've got, but I think every Christian who works in plural contexts like schools needs a theology of religions of their own. Well, there's a starter. More to say.
Let's have that last question.
It was a slightly more practical question than a deep theological one, but some experience of set press.
Keep going. Because the receivers are down here, that's the problem.
There we go, it's back. Yes, it's just if there are any practical tips it's easy to do this sort of, for me anyway, it's easy to do this in Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2, but practical tips for how you translate this into a secondary school context in terms of setting up a prayer space and encouraging students in.
It works. And I don't know anything about running it in Key Stage 1 or Key Stage 2, and I wouldn't. Don't let me near a primary school because we don't do. They're too small. We don't understand them. I don't know. When they get to 11, they become interesting. When they get to about 13 or 14, they become even more interesting. But those are my biases regarding age and gender and children and young people. It absolutely works in secondary schools. We've been running prayer spaces in secondary schools since 2008. We've done over 25 of them. All of the schools we're working in are not faith-based. They're all just community they're now academies, maintained schools. It absolutely works. We've also run very, very successfully a prayer space once a year in our local sixth form college, where there are 3,000 students. And without any lessons to send them into, it has just been set up on the concourse, in the public space in the middle of the college, and students only engage with it if they choose to. And typically, every year, over a tenth of the college will engage, which is amazing, because that's on one site, and then a bit further down the hill there's another bit of the college, and a bit further down the hill there's another bit of the college. And the people who do their collegey stuff down the bottom of the hill very rarely come up to the top of the hill. So we're probably seeing a high proportion, more than 10% of the students in the area of the college where we're based are choosing to interact with Sanctum, our prayer space, and are coming up with the same profound responses that we see, age appropriate to them, as we see with the year sevens that we see on other occasions in schools. So I know it absolutely works.